Believe it or not, but I play more than just stupid games made by Nintendo. As I've gotten older and my interest in gaming expanded to more varied and unique titles, I've been dabbling in games that I never really thought I could get into when I was younger. Crash Bandicoot, Minecraft, Sonic, GoldenEye 007, Wii version, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, all that, and it's been a refreshing change of scenery compared to jumping plumber over there, and I still want to get into more as the years go on. I still love the games that Nintendo puts out and certainly don't want to stop playing those as time goes on, but it's just been so nice playing games that are very different design-wise, gameplay-wise, and story-wise that really allowed me to appreciate the broader and more unique side of gaming a lot more. And speaking of the more unique side of gaming, there is one game that I fell utterly in love with and one that I only started playing within the past year that I believe was worth featuring in its own respective video. Enter Portal. Well, damn, an actual video game. Portal first released in 2007 by Valve as part of the Orange Box game collection. And while I don't know too much about this collection myself, I do know that upon release, Portal garnered loads of critical praise, many of which were more than happy to say that it's one of the best games of all time. In fact, Valve's other releases could also be given that title as well, but I haven't played any of them besides Portal 1 and 2, so I've got time to waste. Strangely enough though, despite Valve making some truly banger games in their day, I never really hear about any modern day releases by the company. Either that or they're just very quiet about it. And that's a bit disappointing, honestly. If you're making games as good as Portal, you'd expect to see a bit more of a presence from them than what we're seeing now. I mean, Valve's not completely dead. They probably still have new games in the works if anyone in the comments wants to correct me, and hell, they've had their own game console since 2022 with the Steam Deck, so to say they're almost non-existent nowadays would be an overstatement. And I'd love to play more of their stuff too someday. I just hope they're still making new stuff. But let's get back to Portal. For this, I'll be rolling through the Portal Companion Collection found on Switch that released in 2022. I mean, hell, I wouldn't be able to play the game without it. Do you really need proof that I don't own an Xbox or anything other than the original PlayStation? But without further ado, let's jump right into the original Portal and see how non-Nintendo-y it's gonna be. So right from the title screen, you can immediately tell that this is going to be a much darker game than you'd imagine. Just the overall environment and the music accompanying it immediately gives off sinister vibes. But once jumping into the game, here we wake up in a pod in a medical facility known as the Aperture Science Enrichment Center as a woman named Shell. But you wouldn't know that unless you paid attention to your surroundings, as the game is in an entirely first-person perspective. And she doesn't have a voice either, so really it might take a bit of time after starting the game for you to realize this. But the main objective is to simply escape the center you woke up in. You'll be traversing 19 different floors, each with their own challenges and puzzles to solve, with the elevator at the end of each serving as the goal. Now, contrary to what it may seem, despite the atmospheric and lonely vibes that the Enrichment Center has, you're actually not alone here.
Hello, and again, welcome to the Aperture Science Computer-Aided Enrichment Center. We hope your brief detention in the relaxation vault has been a pleasant one. Your specimen has been processed.
This is the Genetic Life Form and Disk Operating System, or GlaDOS for short, a sentient AI that's meant to guide you through the facility to help you escape. Or so you think. She talks to you constantly throughout this adventure as a disembodied voice, whether it's to explain a specific mechanic or challenge, show off her sense of humor, or something a bit darker like the subtle hints that she gives that implies that she's trying to lead you to your impending death.
The weighted companion cube will never threaten to stab you and, in fact, cannot speak.
Is that how every antagonist is supposed to play out? She's actually a welcome addition here because she adds a lot to the game's dark tone and overall story, while also making it a bit more lighthearted, and I really don't recall an instance where she came off as annoying more than anything, and that's pretty cool for a character you barely see. She's even considered one of the most iconic game characters of all time. But essentially, the first bit of the game will have you navigating through the first floor until you come across a room housing the Aperture Science handheld portal device, or portal gun for short. And this is the game's main mechanic, being able to create a portal on a wall or the floor as a way to solve some kind of puzzle or to progress, and it is genius. I cannot stress enough how incredibly well thought out and creative this mechanic is. Just creating a portal that leads to where another portal is just such a smart concept, and unlike other games with great ideas but flawed execution, the portal mechanic is executed pretty much seamlessly. And it gets better later on in the game where you come across an upgraded portal gun being able to create 2 portals instead of 1, where one is blue and another is orange. This also opens up the door to even more possibilities, like one of the many instances found within of not being able to get to a high ledge by jumping to it, so you can place a portal on the top and placing another that's within reach of you, and by jumping into the portal that you can get to will lead you to where the other portal is. And again, it's just such a cool mechanic, and the game takes full advantage of it. Although some surfaces, like these ones here that are a bit more metallic looking, won't allow you to create a portal, and I believe that also applies to a few other surfaces as well, so just keep that in mind. Now, design-wise, Portal is a very linear game. Not all the rooms will be claustrophobic and box-sized though. There are a few rooms housing challenges that gives you a bit more legroom than others, but even then, it's still mostly linear. And as mentioned before, Portal consists of 19 different floors, each consisting of various challenges and puzzles to solve, with the goal simply being to reach the elevator at the end. And 19 floors, or test chambers as the game calls them, might sound like a lot, but they're really not. Portal really only takes a few hours to beat. You could play through the entire game in one sitting if you really wanted to. This isn't a bad thing or anything like that. If anything, I think the short length adds to its pros by not having the mechanics and challenges overstay their welcome. I'm just saying, the first time you're going into this game with the mindset that it's going to be a 15-20 hour campaign, and then a few hours later you beat the final boss and weren't expecting to do anything else, maybe there will be a slight chance of you being disappointed. But again, not saying that's a flaw, but just don't go in expecting to complete a meaty 20 to 30 hour long journey. Besides, if you still crave more action after completing the campaign, just play the second game that exists. However, Portal is all about its challenges and puzzles, and they could range from, hey, light platforming, to fucking brilliant! There's a bunch of different kinds of challenges throughout, like these ones here that consists of leading this ball of electricity to the spot right here, where upon doing so will open up a passageway, allowing you to either progress by simply walking through it, or solving some other kind of puzzle to get through. Or how there's these stealth-esque challenges where you need to navigate through without being spotted by these robots that will fire turrets at you if caught. Or what about the ones involving the companion cube that you need to bring with you to use either as a means of defense against the shooting bots, or to activate switches that will open up a door for you once pressed down? All these challenges are utilized in really unique ways that make sense, but the game isn't afraid to recycle any past ideas either, and all the ones I listed out already are the main ones that are recycled, but the most prominent example for this that I found personally were the momentum-based challenges. For example, if there's a gap between the side you're on and the side you need to get to, create a portal at the bottom in between the two gaps so long as there's a floor there and not a poisonous substance, while also putting one against the wall on the side you're on, then jumping off the ledge into the portal on the bottom to fly out through the portal at the top and get to the other side with the momentum from the fall speed. And yeah, I know the other challenges ideas were very prominently reused throughout the game as well, but I mostly found these momentum-based puzzles to be the ones I saw the most, and they're pretty cool. If these challenges were just reused throughout the game the same exact way every time, it would get really monotonous and would most certainly sour the overall experience. But because the game combines them with new ideas, it's almost like they're not even the same challenges anymore, and that's another big thing that Portal has going for it, not being repetitive with its challenges. That's not to say that they're all that easy though. They start off simple enough on the first few floors, mainly just to teach you about how the game works with our pal GlaDOS explaining along the way, but as you progress, things can get complex very fast. And usually for complex puzzles in games, I usually look up a walkthrough just because of how confusing a lot of them are.
Don't worry, I'm disappointed with me too.
But for Portal? Not at all, surprisingly. And I think that might be due to me willing to put in the effort to actually solve these puzzles myself instead of a walkthrough doing it for me compared to my earlier years. Because if you're just doing the latter, it just takes away so much of the satisfaction and sense of reward for doing something yourself, which is something I've grown to appreciate in games a bit more as time went on. But if I'm being honest, I still use walkthroughs.
Still disappointed.
But those are only if I'm really stuck, which for Portal, I came pretty damn close to doing in a few areas. Thankfully though, I didn't, because as tough as some of them were, they were still very satisfying to solve on my own. Like this stupid section on the 15th test chamber where you have to lead this ball of electricity to the proper spot in this area with the portal gun to send power to this platform and bring you further in the chamber. But you can't bring portals already created from the outside beyond where that wall is. You can't even bring items like the companion cube with you. But the most difficulty I encountered was just by leading this energy ball with the various portals I made to bring it to the spot that it needs to go to. And I swear, I was stuck on this section for a good half an hour. And keep in mind that this is my second playthrough, by the way. Ultimately, I realized I could just do it by having the ball of electricity go in this little section, then create a portal on the wall before the ball of electricity hits it, so it goes through the portal, then create another portal on the ceiling right above the spot it needs to go to, so it hits it when it comes out. Why did this take 30 minutes? And then there's the other chambers that aren't really hard to solve puzzle-wise, they're just hard to complete. Like this one section here in test chamber number 18 where there's all these little robots to avoid, on top of having to bring another ball of electricity to the spot right here that's closed up, where you need to activate a switch that's already hard to reach even with the portal gun to open it, while also ensuring the ball hits it, which activates this moving platform that you need to reach the spot right here with, activate another switch that slants the side of the wall where you came from, create a portal there, and one at the bottom here, fall down it, and the speed you're falling at will launch you to the top to get a hold of this companion cube. Then go back to the original spot and behind the slanted wall, and place the cube on the switch to open a door. That didn't sound confusing. Again, this chamber isn't hard to solve puzzle-wise, it's mostly pretty straightforward with what you have to do. It's just kinda hard to do it, and you have to be stupid fast in order to do it as well. And personally, while I enjoyed these challenges quite a bit, I think I prefer the more puzzle-oriented ones a bit more. But hey, I'd be lying if I said I didn't appreciate the challenge and change of pace. I'd also be lying if I said this game didn't fucking creep me out. It doesn't have elements that makes it a horror game like jump scares or anything like that, but on top of the dark and gritty atmosphere with the music accompanying it also being ambient as well, and GlaDOS' subtle hints that implies that she wants to kill you, there's also this. Splatters of blood, and some writing on the wall that is also quite dark. The cake is a lie, huh? Yeah, because that foreshadowing is so good it should become a meme. It adds a lot to the backstory and visual identity of the game's setting, and despite being a bit terrifying, it does give a bit more of a story and context to everything, so there's that. And did I mention that this game lacks any form of health meter or an indicator that you took damage? It's not something where one hit from something kills you, except for these balls of electricity that do in fact kill you with one hit. The turrets that gets fired at you usually require several hits before you're dead, and falling in something like this poisonous substance here kills you immediately and just sends you back to where the game last saved. Or what about these little signs that are commonly found throughout the rest of the chambers that are meant to tell you stuff like upcoming hazards, or a hint that sorta tells you how to progress? There's also these signs too at the very beginning of the chamber illuminating everything that you should expect from this specific chamber while telling you what number chamber you're in specifically. None of this has any significant change or impact to the overall game, I just wanted to mention it as it is still a key part of it. But once you progress through all 18 test chambers, here we are on the final one. The 19th chamber starts off like all the others with a few challenges associated with it. Then, things take an alarming turn. After seeing a sign on the wall showing a picture of a cake implying that you're going to be rewarded for your trouble of navigating through 19 floors of an entire science facility, you see a fire with the moving platform going right towards it with you on board, so you have to quickly create a portal on the top of the ledge and the wall that's closest to you to escape before you fall in. After that, you're kind of just wandering around figuring out how to get out of here while GlaDOS is making statements that makes it seem like all that was simply a prank. However, after progressing for a while, avoiding these little robots from before, using this companion cube to reach an unreachable area, and the other challenges that are a part of this floor, you then find GlaDOS. However, I do want to mention before the final boss that the remainder of the game after escaping the fire isn't all too hard. It's just rather long and it's sort of a puzzle in and of itself to figure out where to go next. There's still actual puzzles there too, but I found those pretty manageable. But after progressing for a while, we come across this room here where GlaDOS is, who also serves as the final boss. It starts off simple enough. One of GlaDOS' cores come off and you need to go flip this switch here to open this incinerator thing on the other side of the room that you put the companion cube in earlier, and drop the core in it to inflict damage. After that, the true final boss starts. Toxic gas is emitted in the room and you now have a time limit of 5 minutes to defeat her before the gas kills you. GlaDOS has 3 other cores that you have to manually knock off by using this rocket launcher to fire rockets into a portal that leads to GlaDOS. But just hitting her with rockets will not do it. You need to find where the core that came off of her landed, and once again pressing the switch here to open the incinerator and drop the core in it before it closes. Do this 2 more times and Portal is finished. Now, for the only boss fight in the whole game, it's pretty decent, albeit a little simplistic honestly. I'm not sure if that was intended by the developers or hell, maybe there's something I'm missing. But I was sort of expecting something that felt more like an actual boss fight rather than another challenge, to be quite honest. But that's more of a nitpick than anything. I did enjoy it, but if I'm being honest, I kinda would ask for a little bit more honestly. Now, I did run into a little trouble lining up the rocket launcher with GlaDOS to hit her, and the portal that you're supposed to create for the rocket to come out of being a bit tricky for me to make sure it wasn't too high, otherwise damage would not be inflicted. But hey, it was at the very least rewarding to beat. And plus, GlaDOS talks to you constantly here, much like the rest of the game, and it's always fun hearing what other kind of dark comments she has to make.
This isn't brave. It's murder. What did I ever do to you?
You tried to burn me alive!
However, after GlaDOS is defeated, here we get an ending where you're now out of the facility and GlaDOS is destroyed.
But here we get another cutscene also, with Kate this time. Guess it wasn't a lie after all.
And so, that wraps up Portal, and my overall verdict is that this is one of the best games I've ever played. I know I did a bit of criticism here, but make no mistake, the criticism is merely just nitpicking compared to the game's many aspects that are done so well. Not only is the gameplay fun, not only is the central gimmick incredibly creative and used in such clever ways with the various challenges and puzzles associated with it, not only does it nail the dark theme it's going for, not only does it have solid visuals and an eerie soundtrack to match, not only does it have a great character that's so memorable and fun and even has great writing alongside her, but the game overall is just fun, and it was one of the many third-party games that showed me that Nintendo isn't the only one who can create cool new ideas with their games. And even though I only started playing this game 6 months back, it just blew me away with how masterfully designed it was. And I don't know, I enjoyed it for what it was. I was always well aware of how well received this game was for the longest time, but due to it not being on a Nintendo console at the time and me not having anything but a Nintendo console made it impossible for me to play until 2023, which is a bit late, but I am incredibly glad that I jumped on the chance to play this game when I did, because it's honestly better than some of my favorite games made by Nintendo. I barely found anything to complain about with it due to how good it is. Although I was slightly underwhelmed with the final boss a little bit, and while again, the short length does add to its enjoyment, and I guess I was setting my expectations a little too high, I kind of felt like the game was a little bit shorter than I really wanted it to. But nitpicks aside, it didn't really bother me a whole lot, and if anything, it's still a pretty substantial experience in the end. And I'm really excited to see how the story continues with the 2011 follow-up Portal 2.
That's for another time. So yeah, if it wasn't already said before, Portal 1 is one of the best games I've ever played, and if you want to see more videos based on other non-Nintendo based games, I don't know, would Minecraft Wii U edition work?
And that's a wrap on today's video. If you enjoyed it, then please consider subscribing and checking out my other videos on my channel where you'll find more videos like this one. And with that, thank you all so much for watching, have an amazing rest of your day, and see you next time.